Hi everyone, I'm Rob Ladd, and this is the Cavalier Sports Report, where we sit down with head coaches and players from Johnson County Community College to take an inside look at Cavalier athletics. Today's guest is women's basketball player and NJCAA All-American, Melissa Nelson. We're with Melissa Nelson, recently named you're one of two All-Americans for Johnson County Community College this year, alongside your high school teammate, Christopher Chard. Let's start with high school. What was the transition like moving from Holton, Kansas to playing at Johnson County Community College?
It was definitely a bigger scene in general. Holton's only got like 2,500 people total, and only like 250 people in our high school, so this was kind of overwhelming at first. But the basketball was pretty much the same, more intense and more difficult, but the concept was still the same, so it was okay.
You kind of hit the ground running, and for your career, you averaged 13 points, in fact, 13 and a half points your freshman season. So, I mean, was there much of a learning curve? You say the basketball was pretty much the same. It seemed like you had a great deal of success, and you were the only freshman that started all 32 games your freshman season.
There was definitely a learning curve. With Conrad, he kind of breaks you down, and you relearn every part of the game, and that's why I think everyone is so successful throughout his program. And it's always a learning experience. I felt like I know the game so much more now, and I'll be able to take that on to wherever I go next. So.
Yeah, we already know where you're going next, though, right?
Yes.
You signed on recently with someone.
I verbally committed to Fort Hays on Saturday, and I officially signed the paper on Wednesday.
Congratulations.
Thanks.
We mentioned your high school teammate, Christopher Chard. She's also visiting Fort Hays, so there's a chance that you will have played with her from elementary school throughout the duration of your college career. Talk about your relationship with Krista a little bit.
She's my best friend. She's been my best friend since first grade, and our parents actually coached the little kids team together, and we just continued going on, and she was my point guard and I was the wing, and we're like, this is fun. We could play throughout high school and get extra teams together. So we played throughout the summer and had extra teams. And then when college came around, we were like, man, this sucks. We don't really want to go to different schools, but we need to go to the place that is the best fit for both of us. So we were like, well, we're just not going to talk about it. So we didn't mention it. And I actually called my coach the morning, it was like a Monday morning or something. And I'm like, holiday, I'm ready to commit to Johnson County. I think that's what I'm going to do. And he starts cracking up, and I was like, oh, I didn't think this was supposed to be funny. And he goes, well, Krista just called me last night, and she's committing to Johnson County too. So
you guys hadn't even discussed it. It was just a strange coincidence that both brought you here.
Mm-hmm. And that's kind of what we're doing for the next school too.
You both were perennial starters this last year. A highly successful season for Johnson County women's basketball. You finished the regular season ranked number 2 in the nation. Let's talk about memorable games throughout your career. I mean, are there any that stand out, special moments, or whole games at a time that are going to live with you as you continue on to Fort Hays?
There's definitely some highs and lows for special moments. Going just 14-0 like at the beginning, especially how we started out our freshman year where every game was a fight, and I mean it was this year too, but we didn't usually come out on the winning end last year, and so 14-0 was a big accomplishment, and we were like, well, we can keep going, we can do this. And then we got to Labette, and then that was like probably a memorable low moment because they just kicked our butts and we were shell-shocked. But we turned around and we responded well, and we finished out the season strong. Probably the 2 most memorable games for me was the Highland game, and because that's my last night that I played in the gym. I don't really feel like sophomore night was completely sophomore night because you have more home games. So yeah, had 32 against Highland, and just everything went right that game, and we got to go on to region or the districts. And then districts, I didn't put up 32 points. I only had like 20, but it was like that last step because I wanted to make nationals so bad, and I was so focused. I'm like, I'm getting my team there, and I'll do what it takes to get it there. And so that was special too.
The Highland game was one that stuck out to me because it was a game that I had the chance to call, and we knew, and we were kind of scrambling through the notes to figure out what your career high was because we knew you had to be approaching it. And if my numbers are correct, you had, I think, 21 of 32 points in the second half. It was pretty close at halftime. You guys were only up at 3. What are you thinking going into the second half of that game, and are you just starting to feel like I'm on, get me the ball? I mean, what's your mental outlook?
Well, no, actually, I didn't know at all. Like, I kind of just put it up there, and then I go to the next play because my defensive assignment is usually one of their better players, and so like you have to switch modes real quick at half court, and so I never really focused on how many I made or missed, and I was just kind of playing the game. And the second half, I think I always play better, like just in general overall season. The first half, I just kind of like feel my way through the defense, and I don't do anything spectacular or awful either. I just kind of play. And then the second half, you seem to like figure it out, and it starts to click, and points come easier. So
it had to be a good feeling going out. That's your last game you play as a Cavalier inside this gymnasium. You go out with a career high, so that's got to be a pretty good feeling. Let's talk about coaching for a little bit, and Coach Ben Conrad. So you actually committed to somebody else out of high school, but end up coming here. Kind of take us through that process, hearing that the coach you committed to wasn't going to be here anymore, and then meeting Ben Conrad.
Ooh, that was interesting. The day before I'm supposed to sign, like we have the paper coming, the whole big hoorah, my parents will be there and everything. And Coach Deb Carrier comes in, and she's like, hey, can you come into, it was Holiday's office or whatever, and it was Chris and I, and she's like, I just wanted to tell you I'm going to go full-time teaching, and I'm not coaching next year. And like, Krista took it a lot better than I did. She was like, it's okay, because she's like super nice. And I just like looked at Carrier and I was like, are you kidding me? Like, I'm signing tomorrow, and I told everybody that I'm going to Johnson County. And so she's like, well, why don't you wait another week before you like officially sign, so to think it through. So I was like, okay. And after just, I was like, I just want to get this done with. I've already told every other school that I'm going to Johnson. Let's just roll the dice and we'll see what I get. So that's what I did.
It worked out pretty well. Talk about meeting Coach Conrad for the first time, what your impressions were of him.
I was intimidated the first time I met him, like before he even talked. We were pretty bad, like without a system, just the collective players that we had, because we were all undersized, underweight really compared to everybody else, and just anything we do was inferior to everybody in our league. Dee was an awesome player, so was Amanda, but like collectively we just kind of looked scraggly. And then he put us in this system and made us disciplined, and we turned out to be very successful. So it's kind of interesting.
How do you think that's affected you as a player from the beginning of your freshman season to the end of your sophomore year?
I like the system that we did, and I think that's what made me most successful, is I understood my role within that system, and I understood where the scoring points generally were within the system, and so did everybody else on the team. So you kind of knew what to expect with everybody, and you knew where they would be when you were playing, and so that made it a lot easier.
So you've almost wrapped up your career as a Cavalier, and I guess on the court you already have. Before you move on to Fort Hays, and we'll kind of wrap up on this, what will you miss most about playing for the Cavaliers?
There's so much. Like, I think you have good support within the athletic teams and stuff. Like, yeah, I know we don't have like the biggest fans that come out and watch us, but the other teams are there. Your teachers support you. Everybody within the administration, and Carl's there every game. Like, he's awesome. So it's just the support that you get within the school system that's really awesome.
That's great. Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks.